conquer the new Form I-9, gain peace of mind today. Thank you for being here. And Danny, I know you're going to be moving the slides for me, so go ahead and do that, please. All right. So idea, how is this going to help you? My goal is that by the end of this webinar, you're going to be familiar with the new Form I-9. You have a new Form I-9 implementation plan for you, your team. Understand the impact of that form on your team and your workforce and the process that you currently have, and also how fully compliant organizations are doing this. Next. All right, I know it's hard, and this is one of the challenges for a virtual presentation. When you're with me live, like in person, you know, it's a lot easier for me to kind of bring you back in. On a virtual, it's much difficult, but I know because you're here with me this morning that you're in this together. So turn off distractions for an hour. I can guarantee you, you will get a lot out of it if you stay with me. So next. Okay, another one, and I just did this I did a presentation with Lucia Flagler recently. I had not done this before. I offered it to them and it was really, really valuable. Stay with me until the end. You'll know how to get this bonus. Next. Okay. Most of you or all of you should have received a few emails prior to this presentation. One of them had the quick I-9 roadmap. And the reason I sent that to you ahead of time was because often when I get to these presentations, I have a variety of levels of knowledge. So I wanted to do this for you to review it so that we can all at least start at the same place. So I'm going to go very quickly through this. Basically, your employee completes section 1 no later than the first day of work. You need to provide them with a list of acceptable documents and the instructions. They have to be available. I've seen this done many, many ways. If it is in person, they could get a binder with the stuff or the papers, or they're sent to them electronically, but they have to have access to all of this. And this is one of the things that you're going to have to remember. And we're going to cover that as I cover, you know, the things that you need to do for implementation, because whichever way you're doing this right now, you're going to have to put it on your to-do list, because it's going to have to change, because the list of acceptable documents is changing. The instructions are changing. And of course, the form. Second piece of this, the employer reviews and verifies section 2 no later than the 3rd business day. Now, with the remote workforce that we are all having, at another SHRM presentation, I was asked, and I thought, gosh, that's a really good question, because we always typically, so I was asked about, well, can the employer fill out section 2 before the person comes to work, right? Tell me in the chat. I want to make sure that you are with me. Is that a good question? And does someone have the answer? I did. Okay, I'm looking through the chats here. I did not receive the emails. So we're actually using a new program while I'm doing this. So for those of you, what I'm going to do in a follow-up email, all of you that are here right now, I'm going to make sure that you do get this quick I-9 roadmap. Because actually I got a testimonial on it. Long story short, it's really a valuable thing. So Danny, please make a note that we're going to be sending the quick I-9 roadmap again to everybody on a follow-up email. So my question to you all, just to make sure that you're here with me, can an employer fill out section 2 before the person begins work? Who has the answer for that? Are you with me? Oh my goodness. Okay, very interesting. So the answer for those that said yes, the answer is yes. Okay, so I'm thrilled. I'm very happy that this is, you're already learning. So, and the reason why, as long, and maybe there is a, a follow-up to this. The reason why is as long as the person has accepted, so the offer was given and the person has accepted the offer, then you're done. I mean, basically you can do an I-9. So if you are, and you can, obviously the employee can complete section 1 and you can do section 2. So that's the piece. So the offer has to be made, and the employee has to have accepted that offer. So for a lot of you that are doing remote employees onboarding, this is something else that you can start implementing. That section 2 and finalizing the form can be done before the person comes on board. Okay, so yay. One thing that you've learned, and this is my whole goal, is at the end of this presentation, you're going to have a few gems that are going to help you with your day-to-day things. Okay, Danny, next. All right, so this one again is part of that roadmap. It's basically an overview of what happens. Section 1, what does the employee need to complete? Section 2, what does the employee need to complete? And then the employer certification field. I see a lot of errors there when I do audits, and I help employers fix I-9s. And that section is also changing with the new I-9. So just make sure that that they know, do you pay attention to that? Okay, the next one. All right, this one is more of a just general tips that are very useful. Again, I sent this ahead of time because some of you are at different levels. How many of you told me in the chat, keep the I-9 files separate from the personal files? Yes, separate, just separate. We do file separately. Okay, awesome. Okay, fabulous. Because I do get some people that are like, oh, no, but I kept them. So awesome. Those that are doing it separate, that's the way you should do it. And the reason you should do it, because I've been asked, but why? Well, the why is because, and we're going to touch on that later on, if you have a government inspector coming in and you have to produce your I-9s, you do not want to have to go through all your employee files to pull your I-9 and your supporting documents. It takes a huge amount of time. So separate. Always check and use the latest version. That's why you're all here. Enter NA if the information is not applicable. Now, I have another wonderful tip for you. This requirement may be going away with the new form. Who's happy about that? Yay. Yes, yes. I was very happy. And every HR that I've talked to is like, yay. Okay. Use section 3 to re-verify workers. Use the same I-9 process for all new hires. So you cannot decide that you're going to use, for foreign workers a process and then from somebody else, something else, blah, blah, blah. And this is really something very important. Retention period is 3 years from date of hire, 1 year after date of termination, whichever is longer. I know we are kind of, our minds is like, just keep everything for as long as you can. Well, this is one form that you don't necessarily want to keep for any longer than you have to, because no matter how good you are, there's always issues. So have those tickler systems working for you. Okay, next we are going to move. This is the end of this kind of recap, checking in. I think everybody's with me. I know quite a few of you are putting questions in the chat, and I totally appreciate that. I have a lot to cover. So don't worry if you just, if I can get to them, I will. And if not, I'm going to be compiling this and you will get answers. Okay. So I'm happy to see you all in the chat conversing with me. I love it. Not on the chat, on the Q&A actually. So, okay, next. All right. This is just a little bit of my background very quickly. Many of you know me, some of you don't, but I could talk immigration all day, which is kind of crazy, but it is what it is. I'm an immigrant myself, immigrated from Cuba to Canada, Canada to the United States. I've been through the process personally twice, became a Canadian citizen, became a US citizen. So I've taken that part of my life into my profession, and now this is what I do. We do only corporate immigration compliance right now. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've published a book about it. This is how passionate I am about all of this. And I'm very fortunate to have an amazing team working for me. And that's the next slide. The only reason that I can do what I do and provide the services that we provide is because of these ladies. I believe some of them or all of them may be on the presentation or participating today. I know Danny is helping me on the background here with the presentation. So thank you, Danny. Tyra, I believe, is here. She's been with me for over 15 years. So we have Priscilla is the newest to the team, but she also comes to us with experience in immigration from another firm. And Ellen has been with me now, I think, Ellen, 4 or 5 years. Time just flies. Again, an amazing team. So thank you, ladies. Next. Okay. Just, of course, I'm a lawyer. Slight disclaimer. Every case is unique. So this is general information only. Okay. Next. Thank you, Julie. Fantastic team. Thanks. Okay. We're going to be learning about the 3 sections of the I-9 and how they're changing, how to prepare for the transition, and how fully compliant organizations are doing this. Next. Okay. How do you feel about the I-9 process right now? I'm going to give you some options, and I want you to tell me in the chat. You can use 1, 2, or 3. So, Danny, what are those choices? How do you feel about the I-9 process? Confused, overwhelmed, frightened? It could be something else. So tell me in the chat, 1, 2, or 3. Overwhelmed. Yeah, a lot of overwhelms. Comfortable. Yay. Okay, I love that. Confused, overwhelmed. Feel okay. Awesome. Feel good. I love that. It depends. Yeah. None of those. Okay. What else? I sometimes mostly comfortable. Okay. Love it. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. Well, whatever your feeling is now, I want to make sure that you're ready for the upcoming changes and that you're learning how to prepare. Okay. Next. Interested. Okay, nice. Okay, so here we go. How are they changing? Next slide. And this next slide is, I'm really interested to see how many of you have you actually seen it. And actually, I'm going to put as a caveat that have not been on a presentation with me lately, because I've been kind of showing it here and there. So how many have you not seen it? Yes, if you've seen it. No, if you have not seen what the new form would look like. Yes or no? I've not seen it, not yet. No. Okay, awesome. That is why you're here. Yay. Okay, few yeses. Not seen the form. Perfect. Okay, so you are at the right place at the right time, because imagine preparing for something that you have never seen. And I tell you, the funniest thing is, it took me forever to find the stupid form. It's amazing. The government wants you and me to give comments about it, but it's like buried in the darkest places of DOL or ICE, I'm sorry. So anyway, here we go. This is what it's going to look like. Well, actually, I think I'm going to show you the current form first and then what is changing. All right, so this is the one that you have all seen. This is the one that you're using right now. Okay, next slide. Here we go. Ta-da! New proposed section 1. Okay, you see the reds. Those are things that are changing. And you're going to hear me at the end. It's impossible to cover everything here. So I'm going to be offering workshops after this presentation. They're going to be scheduled for December, where we're going to go over each one of these things in detail on practical application, basically take a sample person or two, depending, we'll take a U.S. citizen and foreign national and kind of go through what this would look like. The biggest changes is this is a legal, well, not the biggest, there's a lot of changes, but some of the things that I want you to pay attention to, and also not you, I mean, you're here because you know this is important. I think you also have to make your leadership understand that this is important. So notice on the left-hand side, what is in red, I attest under penalty of perjury that this information, including blah, 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 blah. That is there for a reason, okay? The government, the courts are using the Form I-9 as the legal document it is, okay? So when a foreign national, when a U.S. citizen, when a green card holder signs this form, they're signing it under penalty of perjury. When you sign this form, or whoever it is on your team, same thing. So there is significant consequences for not doing this correctly. And obviously, you know that, that's why you're here, but some other that you report to may not know that. So it is, again, this was there before in a different kind of way, but it's even further emphasized because it is used as a legal document in court, and we're going to talk about that some more. The other big change in this section is as it relates to the boxes attesting to the citizenship or the immigration status. This particular section has gone now through 2 edits. And this is where we're at right now. I don't know what the final form has not come out yet, but I think we're very close. I think we're probably about 90% of what you're probably seeing about 90% of what it's going to look like. Okay. But this numbers and not the numbers, but the way this is formatted has changed again, because the government is using this for other purposes beyond just employment verification, okay? Let's look at section 2. Well, actually, so recap, cannot ask a candidate who has not accepted the job to complete this section. Must be completed no later than the end of the employee's first day of employment, and review this section before you move on to section 2. Because even though you don't complete it, you are responsible for the completion of that section, okay? All right, next. This is what you know. This is current section 2. Let's look at what it's going to look like next. All right, this is the new proposed section 2. Now, did you notice in section, well, actually, maybe you're not looking at it the way I'm looking at it, so I'm going to move on. Okay, new section 2. Main thing here for your purposes right now is that, remember before under the certification, this first date of employment that is now on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, used to be in the middle of that certification. And quite often When I did audits, that was not filled out. It was blank. It was left blank because you didn't know what to do with it. So now it's moved to the side. I think it's easier to see it there. Also, something else that the order was kind of weird, and now they've made it, I think, easier for you to sign and date correctly and whatever. You have, you know, the last name, first name, title of the employer, authorized representative, then the signature, then the date. The order of that was backwards, or, you know, it was just weird. So anyway, they've streamlined that I think it looks better. And then the other thing now that I don't know if you have noticed, so this is it. This is, you have seen what section 1 and section 2 look like right now. Are we missing something? Come in the chat. Just make sure that you're with me. What have you not seen yet? I know this may take a little bit of thinking, but think about the form as it stands right now. You have 2 pages, page 1, page 2. What is at the bottom of page 1 and what is at the bottom of page 2 of the current form? You haven't seen that yet. Are you with me? No one in the chat yet, or not in the chat, I'm sorry, in the Q&A. Oh, okay, re-verification section, I see now. Where do we enter the information at the top? Yeah, okay. Translator section, yes, translator, okay, interpreter, rehire. Cool, okay, acceptable. You're with, I love it, I so love when you are with me. Okay, yes. So, the form, one of the biggest changes is we're going from 2 pages to 1 page. And you have seen what that 1 page is going to look like. Section 1 at the top, section 2 at the bottom. That has been the biggest complaint out of the, you know, the public comments that have been sent to you to DHS have been, what? How could we go from 2 pages to 1 page? Da, 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 da. Anyway, there's some people, actually many HR professionals that are very happy with that change. Others that are not. But actually, and some of you that are saying employee name and citizenship status, which is, it was at the top of page 2, that has gone away because there is no page 2, okay? And that is a line that used to be left blank half the times because it was an addition to when they went to the 2-page form. Because now there's only 1 page, the employee completes the top, employer completes the bottom. That employee name and citizenship status does not need to be on that 1-page document, okay? But really good observation for those of you. So what's happening to the re-verification section? What's happening to the translator? Well, now we have supplements, okay? So let's see what that looks like. Oh, I'm sorry, the recap. Okay, complete within 3 business days. Employee must present original documents, physically examine each document. I'm going to cover that also again. Person who examines is also the person that signs. If you're an E-Verified participant, which many of you are, you may only accept list B document and have a photo that have a photograph. Cool. Next. Okay, this is the current. This is what you're used to. And now this is changing to a supplement, okay? Which, if, you know, frankly, many of you do not, when I look at these forms, this section is rarely completed. So in many instances, for your kind of workforce, this is blank. And the page is not utilized. So what they have done is they have moved the prepared or translation to a supplement to be used only if you need to use it. Okay, so that's supplement A. And then the re-verification, let's take a look at that. This is current, which is at the bottom of section 2. Again, page 2, I'm sorry. Many of you who do not hire foreign workers or who do not need to re-verify or do not rehire because, you know, when they stay with you forever, or those that leave don't come back. Although lately I have seen a lot more of rehires than I have seen in the past. But this section also, again, sometimes is not used. So it has moved to a supplement. So we have supplement B. Let's take a look at that. Here we go. Section 3 now is supplement B. And look at all of that red stuff, okay? But it's, again, it's kind of emphasizing some of the stuff that was on the forms before, that, you know, they're trying to, like I said, emphasize certain things and make it a little clearer. But so now, so do you like that? Do you like having supplements and one page? Yes, no, on the chat, on the, I keep on saying chat, I'm so sorry, the Q&A. Do you like it? You don't like it? Let me know. I'm going to keep moving though to the next slide, just to make sure. Okay, some of you asked about the list of acceptable documents. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks. Many of you are liking it. Okay. Okay, so big changes also for the list of acceptable documents. Again, I'm only going to give you a glimpse. Danny, take a look. Let's move to the next page. Lots of red. A lot of it is at the bottom, acceptable receipts. And for those of you that have heard me present about this and that I've talked to you about it, you like it, I like it also. In the past, no one knew what to do with receipts. So now it's there. It's clear for you. This is when you can accept a receipt. This is when you cannot. I don't see a lot of you accepting receipts, but because of COVID, that was a thing that we did more because, you know, the documents were not being issued timely. And so the receipts became a little bit more important over the last 2 years. The other big change that it is going to affect many of you, not affect, I mean, I think it's a good thing. There is various list C documents. Yeah, thank goodness for the list C number 7 disclaimer. Yeah. Very, very good point there. And many of you probably may not even know what we're talking about. But there are many list C documents that are not even here, okay? That they're workers that have those documents that are authorized to work, and there's nowhere for you to know whether you can accept these documents or not. And those changes are now there under the list C, which is really good. The other thing that is not so good, but I am going to cover in the workshops, is go to the top and it says list of acceptable documents. And then it says all documents containing an expiration date must be on expire. Documents extended by the issuing authority are considered on expire. Okay, tell me more, right? What does that mean? There's a lot behind that one sentence. So to be covered in the future, but just again, this is just to kind of for you to be aware. So now you've seen what the form, at least in the current version of the form, which I believe is pretty close to what you're going to be working with, looks like. Comments on the Q&A. Tell me, what do you think? And I'm, again, going to keep moving. Do you like this? No. What's your first feeling? Confusing, happy, overwhelmed? I like it, but very busy. Yeah, I like the clear explanation. Thank goodness. I like it. I like it. This is helpful. Okay, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Very busy. A lot to absorb. Yeah. And that's why you're here. I'm not sure. Yeah. I think once we, and you're not alone. You know, change is difficult. And we're not really sure how this is going to end up working. But again, you're here, you're ahead of the game by a long shot. So thank you. Okay, Form I-9 is one of the most complex 2-page legal form. And now it is going to become a 1-page complex legal form. When you're signing it, again, you're doing it the penalty of perjury. And one of the things that I'm going to be moving, the next piece of this that I'm going to be covering with you, how are, and I don't know that there is a completely fully compliant organization out there, but the ones that are getting the closest to this, what are they doing? And there's 5 statutory mitigating factors. If you get audited, if you get penalties, and the penalties can range significantly, one of the things that is to your favor is good faith. That's one of the things that you can control out of all these mitigating factors. The size of your business, it is what it is. Small is medium is large. Seriousness of the violations, you don't necessarily control them. The government does. They decide what is serious and what is not. Unauthorized aliens, maybe, or people. History of prior violation. Frankly, the good faith is the one that you have the most control over, and we're going to talk about that. Okay, next. Now, I see that the chat is working right now, I believe, or maybe not. No, I think they're just sending it to Danny. So I cannot keep track of everything. So let's just keep using the Q&A for now. I know it's not the best necessarily, but it's what we have. Okay, this is a case that I handled. And I was looking for a picture to put in there. And when Danny saw the picture, I was like, oh my God, that looks exactly like, because poor guy, he had a small business owner dealing with a pandemic, boxes of I-9s and other stuff. This is one of those that was not separated at the beginning. Of course, in the middle of the pandemic, ICE shows up and gives them a notice of intent to fine. And, the fines were $22,000 for incomplete and incorrect I-9s. All legal workforce, he didn't have one for national. It was all paperwork violations. So failure to timely complete and correctly complete I-9s for 10 plus employees, $22,000 fines. So I was hired to work with him to mitigate, negotiate with ICE, blah, 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 create a mitigation factor, and a mitigating package, which we did. The package was 300 pages, including policies, so that the I-9s would be done completely and accurate and timely, how they would be stored, evidence of the specific training that he received, and the backup person, memorandum applying the law, in particular the good faith, blah, blah, blah. Fine was reduced to $8,000. I'm giving you this as an example because it is happening. And again, sometimes you have to convince your leadership, oh no, they think this is not happening. It is. And this case was in Florida, and it happened last year. So just to give you an example. Okay, next. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, best being great, how comfortable are you with the status of your I-9 and the process right now? And again, my goal is that whatever your number is, woo! Wow, I'm impressed. Awesome. All right. Well, for just the you that are 10, and yeah, very comfortable with the I'm very impressed. I mean, there is so much to learn, always, but so kudos to you. But I mean, the whole idea for me is whatever you're at right now, I want you to be better by the end of the presentation. Okay, next. Okay, how to prepare for the new changes. Next. Okay, one of the biggest things that you're going to have to decide is when to transition. Okay, right now, probably most of you know, The form that you're using right now is expire October 31st. And the government has said, until further government notice, they haven't told us what that is, continue to use the current form. I have been through this process now, I want to say 4 forms, probably more, transitions. The last big change, the government gave us 60 days grace period, meaning they would say, as of January 1st, you can begin using the new I-9, and you have 60 days to completely transition. So between January 1st and February 28th, or whatever, 60 days, you would be able to use either form. And then there would be a cutoff period where you're done. You have to move on. So for you, I'm assuming they're going to give us a 60 days grace period. So just keep that in mind. You're going to have some 60 days grace period. You're going to have to decide, when does my team transition? Is it first day, January 1st? Is it in the middle somewhere? Is it the last day? Is it another day? So keep that in mind, because whatever it is, you're going to have to decide, and your whole team, whether it's your 1-person team or your 20-people team, is going to have to get ready to move forward on that day. I tell you, I rarely have seen anyone move forward on first day. Many people last day. Some others that are being proactive, middle. So you take your pick, but this is one of the decisions that you're going to have to be making. Okay, next. Let me see how I'm doing on time. Okay, other considerations. Of course, the size of your organization, the size of your team. Some of you, it's you. So, hey, less things to manage potentially, but more responsibility on you. And then, of course, team or no team. Do you operate in a single location or multiple locations? How is that going to affect the process? How many people are involved? How are they going to be trained to be part of this process? And then another piece of the puzzle is, do you complete the forms on paper or electronically? If you're doing it electronically, another checklist item on your checklist is start checking in with your electronic provider to see how ready are they for this transition? When are they going to be ready? So that you can be ready, because you may decide to transition on day 1, but they may not be ready to transition on the last day. So check on that. And also make sure that whatever they're creating, it is compliant with the federal regulations for electronic I-9s. Some of you have an electronic, a link on your onboarding packages to the form and to the documents, the list of acceptable documents, and to the instructions. All of those links are going to have to be updated. So you have to remember that. Some of you are mailing onboarding packages. Whoever puts those together, however they are prepared, they're going to have to be updated and ready to go on the day that you decide to transition. Okay, so this is just items for your to-do list. Okay, next. So how is it going to impact your employees? And it's going to impact your employees potentially more than you think. And again, I'm going to be covering this further on the workshops. In general, always use the most recent version of the I-9 form, the one that is being used. So right now, again, you find the version on the top of the form, and here we have a screenshot of what that looks like. And you can see there that the current one expires 10/31/2022. Of course, we're using it right now. When the new one comes out, that's going to change. So for example, you have the form changed, and now you began using the new form, and now we're looking at April 2023, and you have someone that you need to be re-verified. You can no longer use the form where you did the re-verification on. You're going to be using the whatever the form is being used at the time. Okay, does that make sense? I have a question. Do you have any ballpark idea on when the new form will go into effect? Not really. But I would say I have the feeling that based on prior years, I mean, I knew and have been telling my team all along they're not gonna be ready, because I've been a part of this transition. I looked at the firm's first draft of the form that came out in June. I looked at the second draft, which is what you're looking at right now, that came out in, I want to say, early September. And I told my team, they're not going to be ready. They're just not going to be ready to move on October 31st. I just knew that. There's just too much going on. I get the feeling that probably towards the end of the year, and that's what I gave you, the January 1st. Now, don't quote me on it because I'm not the government. But I'm thinking more that time frame, January, February, based also on what I know from the prior experiences. So if hopefully that helps, but again, it's a very fluffy estimation. Next. Okay, Danny, next slide. Okay, transfers. And this one can get a little tricky also. So if someone is transferring from your location, say you have, your main office is in Jacksonville, and this person is transferring to an office that you have in LA, California. They're transferring within the same legal entity, general, no new I-9 required. Now, if the employer is a federal or state, and that is now something else that you have to plug into this mix. For those of you that only have offices in one state, kudos to you in respect to this. But right now, there's various state laws in addition to federal laws relating to I-9s and E-Verified and all this kind of stuff. So that's another thing that you have to consider. So I'm just putting here as an example, if the person is transferring from a work site location that is not under E-Verify to a new site that is under the E-Verify requirements, you may need to do a new I-9 so that you can do the E-Verify query. And it gets even more complex if you are acquiring or merging with another entity. And I actually went through this with another organization, our clients, last year, at the beginning of last year, I think, with they acquire another entity, and how to deal with the I-9s, and so this is advanced stuff. I will cover this more in depth in follow-up courses, but just know that this is out there also for you to consider. Next. Okay, how are fully compliant organizations doing this? Let's take a look. Fully compliant organizations and their leadership know that I-9 violation paperwork, they begin at 252 to 2,500. This is for one violation, and this scales up, and I'm going to give you an example later on, to the millions. The good faith efforts begin before the government audit. So exactly what you're doing right now, this is good faith. You're getting trained, you're getting prepared for what is coming. Legally recognized good faith effort include regular I-9 training, internal audits, current compliance policy, engagements on legal counsel, and more. Next. Fully compliant organizations and their leadership know that even if they only employ authorized workers and or use E-Verify, they can still be liable for significant fines for failure to prepare and or maintain I-9s. And this is really important because I hear a lot, oh, well, my management, my leadership, the executive team, they don't care about I-9s because we don't employ foreign workers, or they don't care about I-9s because, or they don't want me to, give significant attention to I-9s because we have a E-Verify. Well, Sadly, E-Verify should be a component that decreases your liability. Currently, that's not the case. It does not matter that you use E-Verify, and that's one of the reasons, like, sometimes when they ask me, should I do E-Verify? I'm like, oh, it's double work. But that may be changing. I'll talk about that too. But right now, it does not matter. The liabilities are pretty much based on your I-9 compliance, and it's tough. It's tough to do. Okay, next. Okay, this is an example of a case that I'm still, every time I look at this case or talk about it, I'm like, seriously. So this is a staffing company, and they were audited by ICE. This is a 2021 case. So again, this is not that long ago. They were fined $2.6 million. The staffing company itself really only employed about 50 regular full-time employees. But they were a staffing company. They hired people right and left, on and off. They didn't have a training program. They didn't have a consistent person that do training or a consistent person that did the I-9s. The I-9s were in various offices, various locations. They were combined with personnel files. It was everything that I'm going to talk about in the following slides was out of compliance. So they were fined $2.6 million for, and actually this is the E-Verify situation. This company was using E-Verify. They put the person through E-Verify, or the various people through E-Verify, and they were getting TNC, so tentative non-confirmation, and they ignore those tentative non-confirmations. So for some of you that are using E-Verify, and if you're getting many TNCs and you're not paying attention to the TNCs, they got fined by what is called knowingly hire. Basically, you continue to employ someone that you knowingly, or you should know that they are unauthorized to work because you have a TNC and you haven't addressed it. That's how the fines start adding up. Then the other thing that happened is they have, like I said, they had 50 regular employees, but they have over the years, over 500 employees. And when you get an ICE audit notice, you have 3 days to turn over your records. And over the last, in the past meaning almost, I want to say up to 6 years ago, I was able to get extensions of those 3 days. I would write a letter, blah, 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 we are unable to, give us an extra time, give us 2 weeks, whatever. Over the last few years, I've tried and tried and tried, and they have not been giving anything but the 3 days. And typically they show up on Friday afternoon. So literally you have like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever to get the stuff together. For this particular company, because they had records everywhere, they were not able to make the copies in order to comply with a 3-day production. So they got fined because they couldn't turn over the I-9s that they needed to turn over. Then they also had a whole bunch of I-9s that were not completed timely because the people were just getting hired and the I-9s were not being done. And then failure to ensure proper completion. So someone may have it started section 1, no one completed section 2. I mean, the list went on and on. Some of you can probably imagine if you're, doing this work day in and day out. After significant litigation, so they ended up paying 1.5 million out of the 2.6. So yay, they saved, $1.1 million in fines, but they also pay a whole bunch of money in litigation to get them down to the 1.5 and a whole bunch of other requirements after that. So again, this is happening. It's happening to smaller companies. It's happening to bigger companies. So and this is the kind of things that companies are being fined for. Okay, so how do we fix this? Next slide. Okay, give me a yes if you want to learn how to do this better. Were those 500 employees over a year? No. And again, I'm kind of glancing at the ones that I can answer faster. I will do that. No, it was, so when they audit you, they'll typically request current I-9, so they will ask you for a payroll record, and they're going to compare your payroll record. So if you have 50 people on payroll, they're going to want to see the 50 I-9s for those. And then they have the discretion to go back as many years as they want to. Sometimes they go back 3 years, sometimes 5 years. So that's how that happened. Okay, yes, we want to know. Awesome. Okay, let's move on. All right, 4 key steps for your risk assessment and compliance. Comprehensive I-9 policies in place. Regular training, again, you're doing it, you're here. Internal audits, supportive corporate closure. Those are your basics. Next. Okay, comprehensive compliance policies. These are the list of some of the things that you should have in place, okay? I can tell you some of you have some, probably some don't have others, and some of you may have all or none. So new hire I-9 process. You have to have a policy, a process in place as to how that's going to happen. Re-verification for when re-verification needs to happen. Again, I'm going to cover this in a lot more detail in further opportunities that you'll have. Retention and copies. I'll talk about copies some more. Escalation. What happens if someone is doing an audit in another office, or you see something that needs to take you need another step? Do you have a policy of how to do that? Training, obviously, and quality control. And quality control is kind of your audits, okay? And there's more, but I'm just giving you a kind of a glance as to what other companies have in place and you should aim to have in place. Next, Danny. Okay, train and document. This is part of your compliance. This is part of your management. This is part of how it gets better for you. Design staff involved with the I-9 process and their backup. So who needs to be trained? Whoever is the staff that is designated to do the I-9 and their backups. Designated company representative to respond to government inquiries and ICE audits. I'm not sure that how many of you, well, I'm not going to let you disclose that, or you don't have to disclose it, but think about it. Do you have a designated company representative to respond to government inquiries and ICE audits? And are they designated, and do they know what to do? And also your hiring managers. They may not be doing I-9s, but they need to have a general understanding of what to do. And sometimes, and actually more lately than before, they are doing your I-9s, or they are doing the in-person verification for those remote workers. They need to know what to do. And then about what do they need to be trained? About the I-9 process and the form, how to complete it. Again, I'm going to be doing a workshop about that. Copy or not to copy, and how to copy. You know how many times I'm doing audits and the stuff that is being copied is actually worse than completing the I-9 in the wrong way, because they're not copying the correct documents, or they're copying way more documents that they needed to copy. There's so much, and you would say, my God, how can they not make a copy? Well, they don't know what to copy. Social Security no-match letters, the government has stopped issuing them for a period of 2 or 3 years, maybe more. They're back. That can also be used against you as a knowing hire, that you have a Social Security no-match letter, you should have known, You also need to be trained on trends and corporate audits. It varies. It's an ocean out there. The tide flows up and down. And as I mentioned before, E-Verify, federal and state law requirements are changing. In fact, hopefully many of you know that Florida also has an E-Verify requirement now that's been in place for 2 years. And a few weeks ago, we actually got the first letter. I really didn't think they were implementing it. And we had a client that received a letter from the state of Florida asking them for verification of their I-9 compliance or the E-Verify compliance requirements, because they were a state contractor. Next. Oh, we went back, Danny. So the next one actually is the slide that says, because again, I'm not going to be able to get to already. I keep on looking at my watch here. So please hang with me, those that can, for the next 15 minutes. Yeah, Danny just let me know we're at 9 a.m. So there's so much that I want to tell you. Okay, for those of you, I mean, you get the most out of this by asking questions, and I'm not going to be able to answer all of your questions. It's just impossible. I'm really hopeful that you're getting a lot of value out of this. Danny, go to the next slide. I told you at the beginning, I did this for Volusia Flagler. It worked really, really well. I am going to be offering 10 complimentary 30-minute calls with me. This is your bonus for being here. Thank you for being here in the middle of a hurricane. Danny, move to the next slide because I think it has the QR code. So you can take your phones right now, take a picture of this QR code, go to the link, fill it out. This is really for you. I'll give you an example of the one that I just did last week of one of these HR managers that took advantage of this QR code 30-minute call with me. We got on the call and I said to her, 30 minutes, tell me about your process, your I-9 process. She inherited, there was another HR professional there. She came in, there was no one in the position for about 2 years. So she's coming into a mess. All kinds of people were doing I-9. So she's trying to bring it all together. So we talked about first, how can we improve that process? She had no backup. She's covering 3 different offices. She has the only key to the filing cabinet where the I-9s are. All of these things we found solutions for. She also talked to me about, management doesn't really see the importance of I-9. We talked through that as to how she can improve that. She also had questions about E-Verify, and we walked through those. So that's an idea of what this could be for you if you want to take advantage of it. So I'm taking 10. Use the QR code if you want to chat with me for 30 minutes. We'll reach out to you, Danny will set up a call, Zoom, Teams, whatever, and we'll get it done so that I can help you. Okay, next. Okay, now you have the guidance to move forward, hopefully. Tell me in the chat, have you learned something that you're going to be putting in place today? Yes. Okay, I hope to see a lot more yeses out there. Was this helpful? And if you need more help, so you've heard me talk about the workshops, blah, 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 in partnership with SHRM Jacksonville, which has been an amazing partner. We are going to be doing workshops for you so that you can do what you need to do with less time, less effort, so you have more time to do the other things that you need to do. Whatever I can do all the time. So next slide, Danny. There are going to be 2 workshops. This is what's scheduled right now. The first one, December 13th, the next one, December 15th. From 8 to 10, I am considering doing this twice, meaning 8 to 10 and maybe 2 to 4 or something like that, because I realized after the fact, my God, sometimes that's why diversity is so critical for us to succeed. I was talking to clients that are in California, and they were like, Giselle, 8 o'clock, I have to get up like at 4. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think about you. I'm so sorry. I was so focused on Florida or the East Coast anyway. So again, kudos to diversity thinkers. That's how we get better. So depending on need, blah, 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 I may do 8 to 10 and then 2 to 4 or something like that, but there will be 2. These are the 2 of them that are scheduled right now. Again, SHRM Jax, thank you so much. We're working on something similar with SHRM Volusia Flagler and potentially other SHRM chapters. Next. And what will you get? Really only training of its kind, tons of practical knowledge, hopefully that is what you've gotten here today. Time leverage, that's what I want to give you. I want to maximize your time with you, your team. So these workshops will be available to your team members. So if you want them to get ready at the same time that you're getting ready, so you don't have to do it, have them sign up. I'm personally freeing feeling. I think that's one of the biggest things that I can give you. It's horrible to walk around every day not really knowing what the status of your I-9 is or what's next. So I want to give you personal freeing feeling at the end of this. Next. So I invite you, join me, your team, you. It will be $100 per session. So one workshop, $100, another workshop, $100. It's a bargain for what you're going to be getting and the time savings and the confidence and the comfort. And again, we're doing it in part.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Danny and I'm Giselle's legal assistant. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. So we're having some technical difficulties, as you can tell, Giselle froze. But just to finish the webinar off, so we will be sending out the registration link next week. Oh, 1 second here. That was Giselle on the phone, and unfortunately she lost power. But just to briefly go back to what I was saying, we will open up the registration link next week, and we will be sending out a replay of this webinar sometime on Monday, if not Tuesday. And then for those who did not receive the roadmap, I will be sending that over today. And I understand some people are having issues with the QR code, so I'll be resending the QR code in an email today as well. So I apologize for the technical difficulties, but we're pulling through. And then just to finish it off for Giselle, we're gonna all conquer this together. So there, as she stated, we have two workshops in December, one on the 13th and then one on the 15th. And we'll provide more details when the registration opens next week. And then what's next is the 2 workshops, and we'll hope to see you there.